What's poppin', people? It's your boy Eric Drill back with another Magic the Gathering video, and today we're going to do the black set review for Zendikar Rising. I had previously recorded this, but my mic was muted, and it's just like 35 minutes of me like looking over cards, and I'm like, not good enough. So I've decided to re-record it, and yeah, we're gonna look at all the black cards this time. So let's get started. So the first one's Acquisitions Expert. For 1 and a black, it's a human rogue at uncommon. It's a 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals a number of cards from their hand equal to the number of creatures in your party. You choose one of those cards. That player discards that card. Yeah, it's fine. It's kind of like a weird burglar rat. I'd say it's better than burglar rat because it gives you a choice sometimes. You want it in like a party deck. Otherwise, it's just a fine rogue for any black deck. So I'm giving this one like a C+. Next up, we got Blood Beckoning. For a black, it's a sorcery at common. It has kicker of 3. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If this spell was kicked, instead return 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. So this is a pretty good common. You want it in pretty much all your black decks if you're planning on sacrificing at all or just want to get value out of your graveyard. So, which is pretty much every black deck. Yeah, so it's very flexible. 1 mana to get 1 creature back, and then maybe even play that card that turn is very strong. But if you want to get a couple of better creatures back, you could always pay the kicker. So it's very nice and flexible. I give it a B- because I think it's just a really solid card. You want in all your black decks. Next up, we got Blood Price. For a 3 and a black. It's a sorcery at common. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. You lose 2 life. So this is sort of like the card Dark Bargain. It's fine. It's just some card selection and card draw in black. So that's always nice, but you'll probably often cut this. I'm giving it a C-. Next up, we got Blood Chief's Thirst. For a black, it's a sorcery at uncommon. Has kicker 2 and a black. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 2 or less. If this spell was kicked, instead destroy the target creature or planeswalker. Yeah, this is one of the best, probably the best uncommon in the set. It's like a mythic uncommon, really. You'll often be first picking this, and if not, your rare better been good. This kills anything for 4 mana, so sucks it's a sorcery, but I think it'd be too good at instant. Kill their early thing, or you'll kill their bigger thing later, which is always good. Scales pretty good with the game. Very nice and flexible. I love it. It's like I give it like a B+, A-. Yeah, I give it a B+. It's just a really good card. Next up, we got Coveted Prize. For 4 and a black. It's a sorcery at rare. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. And for the party your party consists of up to 1 each of Cleric, Rogue, Warrior, or Wizard, and Wizard. And then the text is, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. If you have a full party, you may cast a spell with converted mana cost 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. I'm not very high on this card. Tutors and Limited aren't usually great. I'd rather pick like an actual card like that does something to the board. If this better costs me like 2 or 1 mana for me to be putting this in my deck most of the time. So I mean, it's really good. You tutor for something out of your deck and play it immediately if you have a full party, but playing several games of Limited and stuff by now, it is kind of hard to get a full party. I've done it, but you really have to draft around it. But hopefully, if you really want to make it work, you can pick one and just, get every party member imaginable. So, in that deck, it's like a C, and then in every other deck, it's kind of like a D. I'd err on the side of not playing it very often. Next up, we got Deadly Alliance. For 4 and a black, it's an instant at common. It costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Yeah, this one is actually really good. Unconditional removal, and you want it in that party deck, or just you'll pretty much play it in any deck because you're gonna have some party members in every deck. So this often costs 4 or even 3 mana, which in that case it's just really good. With the full party, it's 1 mana. You could live that dream. Yeah, but this one is a B, and you should definitely take it highly. I would take Blood Chief's Thirst over it though. Next up, we got Demon's Disciple for 2 and a black. It's a human cleric at uncommon. It's a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacks a creature or a planeswalker. So it's a cleric, which is nice, and it is some removal, but you are getting rid of their worst thing. So there's that. Plus, you have to sack something as well. Really bad with anything that doesn't removes creatures by putting an enchantment on them. So I would only put this in a deck if you have very few of those or none. If you have even one, like Nahiri's Bindings, I would not even play this. So just it depends on the deck, but in most decks it'll be like a C. I give it a C plus because it is removal, but it is pretty. It's there are limitations, so just keep that in mind. Next up, we got Drawn to the Last Blood Chief for 3 and 2 black. It's a legendary creature, vampire cleric, mythic rare. It's a 4/4. It has flying. When Drawn to the Last Blood Chief attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary. Sorry, contact. Okay, sorry. When it attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard. You return that card to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. The creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. Yeah, Giorano's really good. Slam dunk, first pick. It's just a really good card, and if you can attack even once with this, like, it's just a ton of value. Plus, it's a 5 mana 4/4 flyer, which just gets there on its own. Yeah, it's just a really good card. I'd give this an A minus. It sucks that you have to attack with it, which is why it doesn't get an A. Next up, we got Drana's Silencer for 5 and a black. It's a vampire rogue at common. It's a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -X/-X on a turn, where X is the number of creatures in your party. This is often only like -2, like at best. So it'll count itself, and then you'll have probably a cleric or something else in play. And for 6 mana, I want to like kill something at the very least. And a 3/2 isn't very impressive. I don't think this is very good. I'm giving this one I'm between D plus and C minus. You might want one of these if you're really heavy in the party, so I'd give it a C minus then. Kind of sucks because it's a bad Catoblepus, which was one of my favorite Theros cards. Okay, next up we got Dreadworm for 4 and a black. It's a worm horror at common. It's a 5/4 landfall. You get indestructible. This is often you get indestructible when you don't need it. You often want to have indestructible on their turn, which when you usually can't play a land, so that really stinks. It looks really good because indestructible 5/4, but just it's turn 5. How many more land drops are you going to have really? By that point, maybe 2 at most, 3 maybe if you're lucky. So yeah, I don't know. I was high on this, but just playing with it a little bit, I've come down on it, so it's kind of just like a C. Next up, we got Expedition Skulker for 1 and a black. Vampire Rogue at common. It's a 2/2 and it has Death Touch as long as you control another rogue. Yeah, it's fine. You want to have some rogues. Give it Death Touch. Otherwise, it's just like a playable card. It's like a C minus. Unless you're heavy rogues, then it's like a C. Next up, we got Feed the Swarm for 1 and a black. It's a sorcery at common. Destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. You lose life equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. So finally, black gets enchantment or targeted enchantment removal, but it's also stapled to a creature removal card, which makes it like way more playable. I do really like this card, but the life loss in black makes it so it's hard to stick too many of these in your deck. I usually take the first one, and then the second one, I really want to have like life gain in the deck. So like the black-white deck or maybe black-green, some life gain. So yeah, I think it's a C+. You probably want one of these in your black decks, but maybe not more than that. Next up, we got Ghastly Gloom Hunter for 1 and a black. It's a zombie bat at common. It's a 1/1, has kicker 3 and a black, flying lifelink, so it's a 1/1. But if it was kicked, it gets 2 +1/+1 counters. So it's either a 2-mana 1/1 flying lifelink or a 6-mana 3/3 flying lifelink. Yeah, this usually ends up being pretty effective. If you play it early, you can just slam in there for a few damage, gain a little bit of life. That's usually nice. And then later it's just a 3/3 flying lifelink. These kicker cards are really flexible, which is really nice. If you top deck it, it's not just a useless card, it's actually a threat that puts a clock on them. So that can be pretty good. I think it's a C+, and you'll play it pretty often. Unless you're really heavy into party, then you might cut it because it doesn't offer anything for that deck. Next up, we got Goldraw's Mucklord for 2 and a black. It's a crocodile at common. It's a 2/3, and when Goldraw's Mucklord dies, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. This one doesn't line up very good in the format. Like, it doesn't have any types really. I like the art though. I'll give it that. But there's not really a sacrifice deck really. But if there was a sacrifice deck, it'd be the cleric deck, and this is not a cleric. So yeah, I'm pretty much off this. I'm giving this one a D. Next up, we got Hagra Constrictor for 2 and a black. It's a snake at common. It's a 0/0. When it enters the battlefield, enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it has menace. So really, it's a 3-mana 2/2 that gives itself and the other +1/+1 counter creatures menace. Meh. That deck you might want one of these because it is a payoff at common. But if you want one of these, it's really easy to get one. Not many other decks want it, besides like the green-black counters deck. So, yeah, it's fine. I'm giving it like a C-. Next up, we got Highborn Vampire for 3 and a black. It's a Vampire Warrior at common. It's a 4/3, and it has no other text. So it's a black warrior, which is hard to come by. But there's not much to it. 4 power for 4 mana is fine. But yeah, I already forgot about this card. Cool art, but very forgettable, and it's like a D+. You'll often cut it unless you really need a 4-drop. Next up, we got Inscription of Ruin for 2 and a black. It's a sorcery at rare. Kicker 2 and 2 black. Choose one. If the spell was kicked, choose any number instead. The 3 modes are target player discards 2 cards, return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, or destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. I think it's annoying that the second and third modes care about different converted mana costs, which can be annoying. It's hard to grok, but if you're kicking this for 7, it's really not that good. Like, they're discarding 2 cards, they probably have like 1 card left. You're getting a 2-drop back, which turns 7, like whatever really. And you're killing a 3 CMC thing or less, which not that impactful usually. So it's meh. I mean, it's powerful. I like to use this as like a mind rot. It's just like strictly better mind rot. It's totally fine, I think. But I don't think it gets any better than a C+ usually. Next up, we got Lithoform Blight for 1 and a black. It's an aura at uncommon. It says Enchant Land. When Lithoform Blight, can't say it. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Enchanted land loses all land types and abilities and has tap at a colorless and tap, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color. Don't play this. It's an F. It says draw a card, but don't let that fool you. Just this card really does nothing. Next up, we got Malakir Blood Priest for 1 and a black. It's a vampire cleric at common. It's a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures in your party. Yeah, really good party payoff. It's a good cleric too. This you can reanimate and do all shenanigans with that. It'll often drain for by itself. It drains for 1, which is fine. And beyond that, it's just really good. So I like it. I'm giving this one a C+, and you want one of these at least in your party decks. Next up, we got Marauding Blight Priest for 2 and a black. It's a vampire cleric at common. It's a 3/2. Says whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Yeah, the cleric deck really wants this because they have incidental life gain, and then you get to turn that into damage. Note that for every trigger of life gain, they only lose 1 life, no matter how much life you gained. But if multiple creatures of yours have, let's say 3 creatures of yours have lifelink, this will trigger for each one. So you'll get 3 triggers. So that's nice. Yeah, it lines up pretty good in the format. So this one is like a C+ as well. Next up, we got Mind Carver for a single black. Is an artifact equipment at uncommon. When Mind Carver enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +1/+0. It gets +3/+1 instead, as long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. And it says equip for 2 and a black. So you really want this only in the like rogue deck, but it is a really good buff for that deck. And for 1 mana, +3/+1 is super good. But don't play it unless you're somehow filling their graveyard. Because 1 mana for +1/+0, not very good. So in the rogue deck, it's definitely like a C+, and every other deck it's like a D, or even a D-. I wouldn't play it. Next up, we got Mind Drain for 2 and a black. It's a sorcery at common. Target opponent discards 2 cards, mills a card, and loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So this is like strictly better. Mind Rot. There's 2 strictly better Mind Rots. There's a rare one in this, just in this set. This goes in a lot of decks because you're milling a card. You're putting 3 cards in the graveyard, and also you get a life gain trigger, and you're dealing them damage. So it lines up pretty good. You might want one of these in your black decks, but you might often cut it as well. So I'm giving it a C-. Next up, we got Nighthawk Scavenger for 1 and 2 black. It's a 1+*3 vampire rogue at rare. It's got flying, death touch, and lifelink. Nighthawk Scavenger's power is equal to 1 plus the number of card types among cards in your opponent's graveyards. Also, quick note, cards in graveyards have only the characteristics of their front face. So this is kind of like just better Vampire Nighthawk. They're often going to have a few cards in the graveyard. Often they're going to be different types. So this will often be like a 3/3 at least, or maybe even a 4/3. And it's not hard to see it get even bigger than that. So I do like this card a lot. They do have to deal with it, or it'll just keep clocking them. So and it gains them life. So pretty good when you're behind 2, since it has death touch. Yeah, this is good. I'd give it like an A-. Definitely first pick it. Next up, we got Namana Skitter Sneak for 3 and a black. It's a human rogue at common. It's 3/4. As long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard, it gets +1/+0 and has menace. Yeah, it's fine. You want to be in the rogue deck that's milling them. It's a rogue for the party. But a 4/4 menace, for 4, that's not bad. But this will often just be a 3/4. It's like a C. Yeah, you might play 1 or 2 of these. Probably 1. Probably wouldn't play 2. Next up, we got Namana Skydancer for 2 and a black. It's a human rogue at common. It's 2/1, has flash, flying. Enters the battlefield, target opponent mills 2 cards. So this can ambush something. It's a rogue. It mills the thing. This does everything that the rogue deck really wants to do. So in that deck, it's like definitely a C+. And it's just a 2-power 3-mana flyer with flash. So That's pretty solid. So I think I'm pretty happy with C plus for Mnemonic Sky Dancer. Next up, we got No Priest of Oblivion. For 1 and a black, it's a vampire cleric at rare. It's a 2/1. Has menace and lifelink. Has kicker, 3 and a black. When No Priest of Oblivion enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target creature card from a graveyard to the battlefield. Yes, yes, all day. This card is super good. I played it once in a cleric deck, and I often got, you know, a good value creature back, and it's been really good. You can just play it for as a 2 mana, Child of Night with Menace, which is a playable card, I guess. But it wears counters pretty well in equipment, and the reanimation spell is just really good. So for 6 mana, you get this plus the best card in your graveyard, which will often swing games. So really high on this. I'm giving it an A. Next up, we got Oblivion's Hunger. For 1 and a black, it's an instant at common. Target creature you control gains indestructible till end of turn. Draw a card if that creature has a +1/+1 counter on it. No, this one I would never really put in your deck. It's gonna be a D-, and if you're in the counters deck, maybe you play one, but it's really easy to cut. So I'm giving it a D-. Next up, we got Scion of the Swarm. For 3 and 2 black, it's a vampire cleric at uncommon. It's got flying. It's a 3/3. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on Scion of the Swarm. So if you got a lot of life gain, obviously this is a good card, good payoff for that. But otherwise, it's a 5 mana 3/3 flyer, which is playable. So in the life gain deck, it's like I'd even give it a B- because it just really gets in there. But otherwise, it's like a C. Next up, we got Scourge of the I can't say this. Scourge of the Skyclaves. For 1 and a black, it's a demon, mythic rare, star. Kicker, 4 and a black. When you cast a spell, if it was kicked, each player loses half their life, rounded up. And Scourge of the Skyclaves' power and toughness are each equal to 20 minus the highest life total among players. Yeah, so I actually did play with this once, and it was good. It was like a 4/4 that just kept getting bigger throughout the game, and the longer the game goes on, the better this gets. Obviously, this is not really a 2 mana card. It's really, you'll never play it on turn 2. You're probably playing this turn like, I don't know, 5 or 6 even. But if you can kick it, then you can hurt your opponent a lot. You're hurting yourself, but this loves that. It'll be a 10/10 at least at that point, which is insane for 2 mana. Or, well, I guess it's 7 mana. 7 mana 10/10, I'd still might play that. But without even trying, you're probably going to get a 5/5 or 4/4 out of this. So that's pretty good. So don't look at this as a 2-drop. Look at this as a card you're going to play turn 5 or 6. And plus, you'll have mana left over. So that's really solid. So yeah, I like B+ for Scourge of the Skyclaves. Obviously, if you're against like a life gain deck, then this is unplayable, but that's kind of fringe. So I'm giving it a B+. Next up, we got Shadow Stinger. For 2 and a black, it's a vampire rogue at uncommon. It's a 1/4. Says tap another untapped rogue you control. Shadow Stinger gets Death Touch until end of turn, and when it deals combat damage to a player, that player mills 3 cards. Yeah, one of the best rogues in this set. If you have one other rogue, it's like super annoying, and you're milling them, which the rogue deck wants to do. So in the rogue deck, it's really like a B+ even. But every other deck, it's a rogue, I guess, 1/4 that mills, which it's like a C+ in like a non-rogue deck. Next up, we got Shadow's Verdict. For 3 and 2 black, it's a sorcery at rare. Exile all creatures and planeswalkers with converted mana cost 3 or less from the battlefield, and all creature and planeswalker cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from all graveyards. Not great, because by turn 5 they're going to have a 4-drop and a 5-drop, and you're killing maybe 1 or 2 little things, and you aren't developing your board because you want to play your board wipe. It's just not a very good board wipe. Plus it's 5 mana. The best board wipes are usually 4 or less. And I'm just not high on this at all. I'm probably not ever picking this, so I think it's like a D. Next up, we got Skyclave Shade. It's for 1 and a black. It's a shade at rare. It's a 3/1. Has kicker 2 and a black. It can't block, and if it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 1/1 counters on it. So it would be a 5/3. It says has landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, if Skyclave Shade is in your graveyard and it's your turn, you may cast it from your graveyard this turn. Yeah, this thing is a house. Just keeps coming back. They have to block it, eventually, or it'll just kill them. And you can play it out of your graveyard for 5 mana, and then it's a 5/3. And then they kill it again. You can play it again, and it's a 5/3. Yeah, sucks that it can't block, but I mean, this would be the most annoying card ever if it can block. Yeah, it's just a really good card. I'm giving it an A-. The can't block thing is kind of a drawback, but it's a really solid first pick. Next up, we got Skyclave Shadow Cat for 3 and a black. It's a cat horror at uncommon. It's a 3/3. It says 1 and a black, sacrifice another creature, put a 1/1 counter on Skyclave Shadow Cat. And it says whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card. As a sack outlet, it's fine. It costs 2 to do that, though. You want your sack outlets to be 1 or free. But 2 mana isn't that much to ask. Plus, you can do it at instant speed. And it's kind of a payoff for the 1/1 counter deck. If you have like a card that's not doing much with a counter on it, you can cash it in to give this a counter and draw a card. But whenever any of your creatures with counters on them dies, then you draw a card. So, which is nice that it's not attached to the first ability. This is fine, but you want like party creatures usually over this, so it's like a C, really. Next up, we got Soul Shatter for 2 and a black. It's an instant at rare. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the highest converted mana cost among creatures and planeswalkers they control. Yeah, so this will often get their best creature, which is awesome for 3 mana. Sucks that they still do sort of get a decision, so won't always get their best thing, but it often will. Really good in EDH, and probably good in Standard, but in Limited, it's pretty good. So I'm giving this one like a C+. I would take Bloodchief's Thirst, the uncommon removal spell, over it. Next up, we got Subtle Strike for 1 and a black. It's an instant at common. Choose 1 or both. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, or put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Yeah, Subtle Strike is pretty powerful when you can play it if you can fit it into your deck, but Limited these days has so many playable cards. Each set, there's hardly any like unplayable stuff. So like to slot this in, you're cutting a real card. But if you're like in best of 3 and they have a lot of X1s, then definitely put this in. But I mean, does give a counter, which is nice. So it's got a permanent boost. But it's a very minor, negligible effect. However, this does, win you some combats. So it's not bad. It's like a C, but you'll often cut it. So I like C for Subtle Strike. Next up, we got Tabarrak's Hope's Demise at 2 and a black. It's a legendary creature, demon cleric at rare. It's a 2/2 with flying. Tabarrak's Hope's Demise has lifelink as long as it has 5 or more 1/1 counters on it. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on Tabarrak's. If that creature was a cleric, you may draw a card. If you do, you lose 1 life. Kind of cool that it's optional to lose a life and draw a card. But anyway, this card, like, they just have to deal with it, or it just takes over the game. Once it gets that 5th counter, it's a 7/7 now with lifelink and flying, which the game will just end by that point. So they just need to kill this, or it gets out of hand. Pretty good, like, sacrifice payoff as well, and obviously you want clerics. So good in the black-white cleric deck. Yeah, this is just a really solid card. It's like a B plus, I would say, and it's just a must answer threat. And next up we got Thwart the Grave for 4 and 2 black. It's a sorcery at uncommon. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. Return target creature card and up to 1 target cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Yeah, so this is like another mythic uncommon. This and the removal spell are two of the best cards like in the whole set, I would say. But this card is so powerful. Like it can often cost like 4 mana. I've actually gotten a full party once and played it for 2 mana, which was just totally insane. It was backbreaking. The opponent just pretty much conceded. But if you get 1 or even 2 of these in your deck, like you're just trading off creatures left and right, and then you get them back, and then what can they really do about that? You get two creatures back. Really easy to get a party member in your graveyard plus any other creature. Just super solid. I'm giving Thwart the Grave an A because it's just so powerful. Even though it's an uncommon, it's just an A. Just take it. You can definitely first pick it. Next up, we got Vanquish the Weak for 2 and black. That's an instant at common. Destroy target creature with power 3 or less. This one, even though it's an instant, it'll also often act as a sorcery because it really sucks when they pump their 2/2, and then this just whiffs. So it's not a very good card. There's much better removal in the set, in black especially. So this one is like a D plus. You could play 1 of these. Okay, it's a C minus because you might play 1 of these if it's your best option, but there's much better options. Okay, that's the last black regular card. We'll look at the double face cards in black. The flip lands are the black-white one and the blue-black one. And interestingly, black doesn't get a front face, which is, I thought it was kind of weird. Okay. So the double face cards, these are all the ones, all the non-mythic ones are just come into play tapped and add a black mana. That's all of them. And then the mythic one on the back is a land that says when it enters the battlefield, you can pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. Tap for black. So the first one is Agadeem's Awakening. It's the mythic rare. X black 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 for a sorcerer mythic. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different converted mana cost, X or less. So for like, let's say if you pay 6 mana, you get a 3-drop, a 2-drop, and a 1-drop. All straight to the battlefield. If you pay even more, you get even more. So if this is in your deck, you're just trading creatures left and right, just kind of like Thwart the Grave. I don't know if this is better than Thwart the Grave. Could be. It would be a really hard pack, or it would be a hard pick. It's like if this and Thwart the Grave were in the pack, I'd be like, ooh, that's rough. But this does have the upside of being a land, so this probably gets the edge over Thwart the Grave. That card's so insane. But this card really can take over the game. So I think it's an A. And I don't want to ever open a pack with this and Thwart the Grave because, oof, that's a tough call. I don't know. Probably this. It's a mythic. Hey, hell. You can probably get another Thwart the Grave later. Next up, we got Black Bloom Rogue, 2 and a black. It's a human rogue at uncommon. It's a 2/3. Has menace. When Black Bloom Rogue gets +3/+0 as long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. And on the back, it's obviously the tap land. So this card is just a solid card by itself. It's an efficient creature, and it can get even bigger. It can be a 5/3 for 3, which is crazy. Really good in the rogue deck, but it's just a solid black creature. And hell, it's a land when you need a land. So this one I'm giving like a B2. And you'll put this in every black deck because it's just a land or a creature, whatever you need. Next up, we got Hagar Mauling for 2 and 2 black. It's an instant at rare. The spell costs 1 less to cast if an opponent controls no basic lands, which will never come up. And destroy target creature. And obviously the back is a tap land. Yeah, so I think this is better than Bloodchief's Thirst, but not by much. Bloodchief's Thirst can also hit Planeswalkers, which is a few. I mean you gotta kill those. So this does have that downside, but I mean it's a removal spell. You'll never play this as a land unless you really need a land. But this one is just really good. It's like a A-. Always take it. Next up, we got Malakir Rebirth for a black. It's an instant and uncommon. Choose target creature, you lose 2 life. Till end of turn, that creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. So this one you're probably going to always play on turn 1 as a land, but when you top deck it late and it's like a combat trick sort of, where you get your creature back, which can be nice. This one's probably the second worst out of the black flips, but it's playable. So I'd give this one like a C+ because the land upside is really good. Next up, we got Palaka Predation for 2 and a black. It's a sorcery at uncommon. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a card from it with converted mana cost 3 or greater. That player discards that card, and it's a tap land on the back. This one you'll probably often play as a land, but if you somehow know that they have a really good card in their deck and it's in their hand, then you can snipe it. And it gets everything 3 or greater, so that's often the better cards in their deck. So yeah, this one's fine. It's like a C+. What do I give this one? C+. Yeah, it's like a C+. This is, I think, the worst one. It's between these two. Which one's worst? Palaka's probably worse. It's 3 mana. Yeah, so it's a C+ still, because it's the land upside. Next up, we got Zoff Consumption for 4 and 2 black. It's a sorcery at uncommon. Each opponent loses 4 life, and you gain 4 life. So, and obviously it's the tap land on the back. 6 mana for 4 drain is kind of crappy, but when it's attached to a land, the whole package is like, you can play the land early, and then you can bounce it to your hand with one of those bounce creatures. There's like 3 different ones. None in black, but in the different colors. I think white, red, and green all have them, which you'll likely be in one of those colors, hopefully, or maybe. But yeah, and then it'll just win you the game sometimes, occasionally, once in a blue moon. So it's an 8-point life swing for 6 mana. That can win you the game. Not bad. So this one I would give a B- 2, and you should just always play these when you get them. If you're in the color, just put them in your deck. You can, I don't know if you might even want to cut lands for them. But that's all the black cards in the set. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna do what's next? Red. Sorry it's taken me a while, but I've been pretty busy with these, so with life. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.